So you want a main Pantheon, the Mantheon. Well, do you like spears? Do you like being a man? Do you like fighting to feel alive? And do you like baking? Then Pantheon, the unbreakable spear, is for you.
Hoo-ah! Fresh from my bakery, my secret dream.
Atreus was born on the hostile slopes of Mount Targon and named after a star in the constellation of war known as Pantheon. From an early age, he knew he was destined for battle and trained to join his tribe's military order. But Atreus was never the strongest or most skilled warrior. But every time, he persevered, standing up bloodied and bruised. One day, while on patrol, Atreus and his friend Pylus stumbled across a barbarian incursion and narrowly escaped with their lives. When the aspect of the sun refused to destroy the barbarians, Atreus and Pylus swore to ascend Mount Targon and capture the power of the aspects for themselves. However, they underestimated how difficult the ascent would be, and Pylus passed away as they reached the peak. But it was not a man who returned from Targon's peak, but the aspect of war itself, Pantheon. Pantheon had judged Atreus unworthy and possessed him to pursue its own goals. Atreus spent years as a prisoner in the deepest parts of his own mind, watching as Pantheon scoured the world for Darkin, living weapons created in a bygone age. One day, Pantheon stood across from the Darkin Aatrox, who wanted to reach Targon's peak. Their battle ravaged the skies and the armies below until the impossible happened. Aatrox plunged his blade into Pantheon's chest, killing the aspect of war itself. But as the aspect faded, Atreus, the man, awakened. With a ragged breath, Atreus spit in the face of the Darkin in an act of defiance. Aatrox sneered and left the man to die, but Atreus forced himself to his feet, clutching the dim weapons of the aspect, and dragged himself home. Months later, Atreus headed out with the aspect's weapons in hand to end the incursion himself. He put himself between the barbarians and the Darkin, but even though Aatrox's blows cast him to his knees, Atreus' own will reignited the aspect's spears, and with a mighty leap he struck a blow that severed the Darkin's sword arm. Atreus vowed that day to stand against aspects, ascended, and demons alike, and any who would wield great power, for all it can do is destroy. Forsaking his own name, Atreus became the new Pantheon. The aspect's weapons now fueled by the will to fight that can only exist in the face of death. I fucking love Pantheon's lore. He is a man who outlived a god and stands to fight because humanity must fight in the face of its own mortality. Pantheon's passive is Manly Spirit. Attacks and abilities generate stacks. At 5 stacks, the next ability consumes the stacks to gain empowered effect. Stacks are maxed out on both recall and respawn. Pantheon's Q is Spear of Destiny. Pantheon slows himself by 10% while charging up to 4 seconds. Charging increases the range, can be recast to hurl his spear, deals physical damage, damage is reduced by 50% beyond the first target hit, deals increased damage to enemies below 20% health, deals 30% reduced damage to minions and monsters. Tapping the ability instead thrusts the spear, dealing physical damage, refunding 60% of the cooldown, and if the charge is interrupted or is not recast, goes on full cooldown and refunds 50% of the mana, and the empowered version gains bonus physical damage and manly math. This is Pantheon's main poke tool in lane. You can chuck it at the enemy or tap it and poke them through the minion wave to harass them and break their spirit. Pantheon's W is Welcome to the Bronx. Leaps to the front of the enemy target's location, deals physical damage, and stuns them for 1 second. The empowered version strikes the target 3 times, dealing physical damage, can crit, and apply on-hit effects, and here's the math. This is a good ability for trades because the attacks from the empowered version can stack your passive, giving you 3 free stacks. Plus, you can follow up with Q for good damage. Pantheon's E is No Damage Please. Pantheon braces his shield, channeling, becoming invulnerable against all non-turret damage for 1.5 seconds, continuously strikes in a cone, dealing damage every 0.125 seconds, damage reduced by 50% on minions, can be recast to shield slam to deal damage in a cone in front of him, and can't be interrupted. The empowered version gains 60% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds after casting, and manly math. This ability is really great for kiting out and dealing damage. You can go in with W, Q, and then E and kite away, so that way you avoid taking damage from your enemy's retaliation. Pantheon's ultimate is Orbital Strike. Pantheon leaps into the air after a 2-second channel, channels again for 2.2 seconds, throws his spear at the target location, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies and slowing them by 50% for 2 seconds. Pantheon then crashes down, creating a shockwave towards the target location, dealing magic damage, fully stacking Mortal Will, and passively grants armor penetration and more manly math. This is honestly one of the coolest abilities in the whole game. The man literally jumps into space and crashes down on his enemies like a comet. It's a great tool for roaming and ganking, plus it allows you to crash right into the enemy backline and destroy the enemy carried with an empowered ability like W or Q. For maxing order, I go Q, E, W. Q for more damage and CDR, E for CDR and more slam damage, and W because it's not really worth leveling early in most matchups. But how do I play Pantheon?
Hey, Ron. Hey, Billy. That hurt.
Pantheon is an aggressive warrior that focuses on burst damage, and he's ready to make some manly plays. In lane, Pantheon is all about manly combat. Take Ignite, cause teleport us for beta cucks. Your main combo is jump on them with empowered W, Q, auto, then use the empowered E to kite back with the bonus movement speed. Rinse and repeat until you can kill them with Ignite in a Q. Mid-game, Pantheon is all about fighting. Fight your laner, ult mid, and fight their laner. Ult bot, and fight those laners. Just keep fighting. Get ahead, and share your lead with your team. Late game is pretty similar to mid game. You don't really do much late game because the enemy team will have more resistances, but play smart and coordinate with your team and you should be fine. If the game goes super late, well, then you're likely to become a glass cannon or fall off. For Pantheon runes, this is what I personally like to take on Pantheon. Pantheon is mostly about short trades and burst of damage, but I will admit Conqueror is better into tanks. And this is what I like to build on Pantheon. Basically, you build lethality and a bit of resistances. For skins, we have Demon Souls Pantheon, Mad Max Pantheon, Mantheon, Full Metal Jacket, Roman Pantheon, Dragonborn. It's not a phase, Mom, it's who I am. Secret Dream Pantheon, Future Pantheon, Evil Pantheon, and finally we have Elden Lord Pantheon. And now, we take a look at an average Pantheon player.
Cause you got that. 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 Like you, cause you got that. Something that I need in my life, so give it to me. Cause you got that. Like you, cause you got that. Something that I need in my life, that I need, so cause you got that.
Pantheon is an absolute blast to play, and he feels even better to play now that the durability patch is out. Pantheon's lore is fantastic, and I recommend reading his full biography on the lore website, because I really didn't do it justice in the summary. His gameplay really makes him feel like a Spartan warrior with the powers of a god, and the manliest man who ever lived, and he really helps flesh out Targon's lore, especially when it comes to the aspects and the Darkin. I could gush about Pantheon all day, but I'm gonna save us all some time. I'm the Wildcard, and as always, I'll see you next time.